How you doing, everyone? Welcome back. Just a public service announcement. I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that is watching my videos, listening to my podcast. I really appreciate it so much. Obviously, I'm getting a lot of comments week to week, day to day that I am getting back to. I've got back to almost everyone across, DMs on Facebook, Discord DMs, comments in there, also comments on the YouTube channel. I really appreciate it so much. But just please, a lot of the questions I'm getting, I actually cover it in the video that you're commenting on. So please watch the entire video. Check the comments as well, just before you ask the question. Because a lot of people are asking the same question. I am answering it in video. Some of these questions, for example, whether it's to do with Nanai or Tango, I am answering them in video after video, right? I'm talking about in each one. So please check that just so we can reduce the amount of comments that I have to get back to. I do appreciate all of it. Just a little public service announcement there. For this video, we're going to be going through a buy, hold, and sell, and also a watch list of guys I'd be looking at, potentially bringing in over the next few weeks, and maybe there's someone that we want to get a couple of weeks of look at in their new role, or have they come out a better player this year, or are they going to be a gun straight from the start? But we'll begin with the buys, and we're going to start with Jeremiah Nanai, and with him there, I just think he's got a little bit more upside than someone like Tango, just for the fact that he's going to be 80 minutes in the second row. They usually, naturally will score a lot better. Tango had an amazing 61 in his first game, so there's every chance he moves back to a 35, where Nanai could continue scoring, somewhere in the 40s, for example. And I'd expect that as a more constant and consistent scorer would be Jeremiah there. So he's my number one buy at a pretty cheap price in the 380s there. If you can straight swap any of your cheaper guys for him, if you have a fair bit of cash in the bank, then that would be ideal for him. What I'd say, guys, is I'm going to talk about a lot of guys that you can potentially hold. I wouldn't try to make two trades to bring in just one of these guys, for example. Like if you can't go one player straight to one of these cheapies, then I'd try to avoid it. If you have an injury up top, whether it's a Brandon Smith or something like that, and you can move him with a cheaper guy like a Sean Russell, and you can trade both of them for these two cheapies, or a cheapie and a midi or a gun, for example, then that would be a good idea. But we'll speak about Stephen Crichton as well. If you haven't got him in your team, he's someone that's really important. I'd say he's more important than Tango. He has a dual position with the wing fullback, and that's a position that I think a lot of us are lacking depth in. Centre, we've got a fair bit with Aitken, Bird, along with the cheapies as well. So that's that. We then have Cody Mann, I think, is almost more important than those guys. He covers the half position and the mids at a nice, fairly cheap price, priced around, just under that 40 mark. I think he's going to be scoring around that 50 mark each week. So he's going to score you really well, really good in the point side of things, and also make you a bit of cash. Maxi King I have over Josh King just because he's that little bit cheaper, and his PPM is amazing, whereas Josh King's isn't. Josh King's probably going to need a little bit more, a few more minutes, especially with Welchie out. You got Jesse Brom back, but you've got a few guys out in that side, and and Brandon Smith, obviously he should be getting some decent minutes. But if there's some injuries in the Dogs pack, Maxi could get even bigger minutes than he currently has, and his PPM's awesome. So Maxi over Josh, but both decent options. If you can, again, straight swap. I wouldn't be pulling apart your team to bring in Josh King. Max King, you don't really have to pull apart your team for that, just with that little bit less of a price point. In terms of some of the guns that I'd be going for this week, Ewan Aitken, I think, is going to be great. He got 56 in base. He's got some upside in attack. Josh Curran looks like he's going to be in everything, especially before Tohu Harris comes back. And then we've got Harry Grant, who is probably not going to get 80 minutes, but we saw what he scored last year. And with the hooking position not being a super strong one, with even guys like Reid Mane and Damien Cook not scoring incredible, Grant's a great option if you can straight swap Smith to him as well. So that's the buy section, guys. We have moved to the hold section. This is going to be a big one. I can't even fit it on the whole screen. Basically, what I'm saying here is most of the guys that you've had a bit of an opinion on coming into the preseason, coming into round one, you should be holding them for more than one game, right? Unless you were not sure on them and you just pop them in because you had that little bit extra cash. Like for me, for example, I'm looking to bring in Tango and Nanai, and I had a couple of guys in my starters side that I was like, well, I can use that cash. There's a potential that he's going to do well, but we're not exactly sure. So for me, that's Uto Kamanu. And with him, I'm probably going to move him on, and Leo Thompson. So I'm going to get two cash money makers who are going to score decent as well. With Stefano, we're not exactly sure how he's going to go. I'm actually predicting him to hit a 50 this week, but it's a mid-ranger that we weren't sure about. So if that's the case with you, If there's a mid-ranger in this section that you're not sure about or you weren't sure about going to round 1, then you can possibly move them on. But if they're a gun, guys, you got to at least give them another chance. So we look at someone like Schneider, who's out for 1 game, so I would be leaving him in your side. You can use him as a loop option as well, which I'll explain in a second, actually. We'll pop into that at the end of this video. But for more, we had a narrative on him coming into the start of the year that he was going to be a little bit up and down, around random 30-odd, and then he'll get a 55-60. So this might be the week that he gets that. He does get Brimson back on his side, so they'll probably go left a little bit more than they did last week, for example. Yeah, he was cut out a lot. He didn't make many runs at all. I think it was only 37 meters. So for Bo, it's only upside, and he still did make it like 2K. So he didn't lose any money. At that price point, he's fine, and I'd be happy to hold him. If you're looking at just say him to Nanai, for example, that's not a big money difference, and it's a trade that you need to use where Bo could come out and get 55 and Nanai could come out and get 40. So just be aware of that. I'd be happy to hold him. Matty Burton, a lot of people are talking about moving on, and he's a keeper in the centres and could end up being a keeper in the halves as well. So it'd be really silly to trade a keeper out after 1 week. Yes, I understand that the Dogs aren't as good of a team, but with the base stats that he had in that first game, he can only improve on that, I'd say. The 500 kick meters might be a little bit more than every week, but he's also going to have attacking stats in some weeks. So the Dogs are going to get better and better as the weeks go on. So hold steady with Matty Burton. Reed Mahoney, Brown, Dylan Brown that is, and Clint Gutherson all need to be held into your team. They had a really strange round, a really strange game. All of them really having low scores for their last few years, so they should have a bounce back game against the Sharks, which will be a bit of a nice clash there. I'm expecting a few less points, maybe around the 22 to 18 mark, and they could have a good game. I'm expecting bounce backs for all of them, so hold steady with them. If you trade them out, you're going to be disappointed, I feel, with those guys because they are all guns in their said positions. Teddy's another guy we're going to talk about, 32 points. Not good enough, obviously, this week. Roosters were that bad, right? We saw what happened with Walker. We saw what happened with Keary. 2 guys that you want to be holding on to as well. I'd stick with Teddy. He's probably going to come out and score amazing. He did average 58 last year in a team that wasn't very good, like in terms of where they could be this year. So keep hold of him. Vailea, he is a cheapie that I just don't feel like you have anyone you can straight swap to, unless you can go straight to a King, Tungo, Crichton, Kurt Mann, any of those types of guys. I'd be holding him. It's just not worth trading him out for the sake of it. He's out for a bunch of weeks, but it's not worth wasting that trade. Billy Walters moves to the bench. He has a low break even. Just hold on to him. If there's an injury in the halves, he'll move back in there. So hold steady with him. Rocco Berry in our 10th spot there. So he has that dual position with the center and the wing fullback, which I think is really valuable. I own him in my team. I think I'll be keeping him in for the majority of the year. I think he has some upside on that 28 that he scored. It didn't do anything spectacular. And the Warriors should eventually be better. They do have Johnson out, which might mean they go left a little bit more with Chanel Harris Tavita. I think Berry is definitely a hold. Penasini, a lot of people like, do I trade him straight to Tungo or straight to Nanai? I think that's a silly idea. Penasini did nothing, nothing too spectacular and still scored 32 in a game where they hardly went right. Nothing really happened well for them. He'll have a game with 50 or 60 in the next few weeks for sure. Joshy Jackson had 44 in his 65 minutes. If he's getting close to the PPM he got last year, he'll be a 55 to 65 scorer on a regular basis. So hold on to Joshy Jackson. Angus Crichton's the other one. Again, lowest score in a Roosters game. That wasn't too exciting for any of their players. He'll be better for it. He'll probably bust out a 70 with a try this week. Tommy Turbo, a few people are like, what do I do with Tommy? Hold steady with him. If you picked him up from the start, you can't jump off him now. He's probably still going to be a decent captaincy option this week, especially if you don't have Payne Haas. We move to Benny Hunt, and again, a lower score for him, but you picked him at the start of the year. He's going to be, you can see a lot of people are off Amone because he isn't going to get a lot of the kicking and Hunt's going to do the majority of the work. So when the half is going to do the majority of the work, like you saw with Sean O'Sullivan, like you see with Toby Sexton, for example, there's some options there where guys are going to do a lot of work, and this is where you can really benefit from someone like Ben Hunt. So you'd hold steady with him. 3 to go here, guys. We've got Lucy Leilua, and with him, a very low score. Obviously, this game, he was probably the best trialer out of any player in the game. He has a super consistent record last year, if you're going off those stats, and the year before. So he's a hold. He won't play that bad again or won't get that limited opportunity like he did last week. Taumalolo, with him, he's coming back from some injuries, so he's going to increase his minutes just slightly, I'd say, somewhere around the 55 mark you can expect. So another point a minute there. And no attacking stats last week for his 45. So expecting a score somewhere in the 50s would be ideal for him. And Stefano Utoikamanu, he is someone I think is definitely a hold. If you don't have anyone clear to, like the one I was talking about, that option where I get two cash cows that can score decent, whereas I got him as being a midi that could be scoring somewhere between 40 and 55, whereas I can get around a 40 to 45 from the other two guys, especially Nanai. And I get another cash cow to cover Leo Thompson's spot. And with COVID being as it is, we want some decent scorers. We see Schneider out. We see Walters. We probably don't want to play. A bunch of us have Alea, Sean Russell, these kind of guys that aren't playing this week. Then it makes it hard to get sort of 18, 19 good players, and I think that's their option. But other than that, I think he's going to get a 50 this week. So hold steady. All right, we have some sell players. Only 3 for us here. And that's going to be Ryan Madison, unfortunately. With him, he's out for a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. So what I'd be doing with him is moving him on. So we don't know what's going to happen. Nathan Brown's probably coming back in the next few weeks. So I was obviously very interested in Maddo, and you can see probably that's partly the reason why he played lesser minutes. So a couple of weeks out for a gun like Maddo, who we're not sure how his role is going to go, where his role is going to be going forward. I'm assuming he's going to be in the edge. But you saw how much they used Sean Lane on that left side, and we don't exactly know, 2 to 3 weeks, and it's a hamstring injury. Those ones can linger for a little bit longer as well, so just move him on. I think that's the smartest idea for now. You can go to Grant, you can go to guys like Curran and Aiken. They're all good options. Obviously, Angus Crichton. There's a bunch of really good guys in that section up top. If you have anyone in the halves, in the centres, wing fullbacks, hooker, whatever you want to do, then pick those guys as well. That's going to be a good option. All right, Brandon Smith, obviously, again, a straight swap for Grant would be ideal. You can look at someone like Starling, for example, but I think that they do have a young number 9 on the bench as well, so it might take a few minutes off him unless Starling moves to the middle. I'm not exactly sure, but I doubt that would happen. So, Smithy's a trade out as well, unfortunately, with that month off. And then Russell, if you've got enough cash to move him on, then that would be a decent option, if you have some extra in the bank. And same with Alea as well. And it's probably on the sell side, guys. I said most of the guys are going to be holding this week is the goal. And then put it together a little watch list. So guys, I probably wouldn't select this week personally, but I'd have them on there. If they go well for another week, then we can maybe select them in our squad. So Spencer Leniu is a good one to start off with. And for me, with him, he's got to start, or he's been named to start in the past and been reverted back to the bench, or he started and still played that one stint, for example, of 25 minutes. So he, is priced at, just in the low, mid to high 20s. So he has to score, he has to get 35, 40 minutes, and we're not exactly sure if he's going to get that. Okay, we got it out. Tommy Gilbert is one that I'd like to watch. If he gets some big minutes again on the edge and scores really well, then that would be good. But they're not going to be playing the Dogs each week, and he should have the odd, missed tackle more than he did last week, for example, and probably not score a try each week. So be aware of that with Tommy Gilbert. The dual position is nice and the price is decent as well, but he is a mid-ranger. And is he going to turn into a keeper? I'm not exactly sure. Isaiah Yeo and Liam Martin, both guys that did really well in that first game. And yes, they may have to carry a little bit more with Leota out, but remember, they're not going to be scoring perfectly each week. And I'll describe last week as a perfect score. They both played incredible. Will they be able to do that each week? Probably not. Will they get 10 to 15 points less than they did last week? I think so. You see what happened with Isaiah Yeo last year. He didn't really play massive minutes at all times. And compared to the year before where he was a clear gun, there's a reason why he was around that 650 price point last year, is that he didn't get the full 80 minutes for the majority of the year. If you look at a bunch of his scores, he's around that 60 to 65 minutes there. Couple of games where he got 70, the odd 80 minutes at lock for sure, which even played 80 minutes for the Blues, but a lot of 66 and 69 minute games going through that period, as I said, with the odd 80 minute game there. So majority of his will be around that 65, 70, and that was a perfect game. He had 3 offloads, 3 tackle breaks, 38 tackles and 180 meters. So you look at his meters gain, that's a big outlier there compared to the majority of his games. And the tackles is on the higher point as well. He has a bunch of games in the mid-20s to 35, for example. So expect some more scores around the 55 from him. Just be aware that he's not going to get 80 every week, and don't get burnt if you trade him in and he doesn't get the minutes that you're looking for. At a 5.6% ownership, do we see a bit of an increase in his ownership? Actually, let's have a look a little bit of that. Isaiah goes up 1.8%. So yeah, a lot of people are going off his scores last week. Same with Tommy Gilbert. Current, I think, is granted because he had a superstar game and he's done it before. But just be aware with Joshy as well that he's a little bit up and down. You'll get the 30 odd and you'll get the 70 as well. In terms of the guys that are hot, I think that's very much granted. Good increase in Payne Haas, Stephen Crichton, Arrow. Schiller, I think, is a probably silly one to bring in, guys. He's only got a few weeks in the team with Rapana coming back. Alec McDonald is someone I'll speak about in a sec. Will Smith, guys, he should be on the down list rather than the up, just with the fact that he's not going to be getting that 6 roll that he did last week. Still owned by 39%. Mr. Lockie Ilias, how much has he gone down? 1.38% down, which is pretty fair. Who else is getting traded out? Let's have a look at that. Amone, I understand, but oh wow, Tommy Turbo, negative 1.5%. Hold on to him, guys. Don't be silly. Billy Smith is on the watch list as well. I should add him in, just with the fact that he had the low score, but he's been named to start again, and he could probably come out and get a 50 this week, for example. All right, Gilbert, Yo, Martin, Sammy Walker just had a bit of a low score. The Roosters had a crappy game. He should be better than that. That's probably one of the worst games I've seen from Kiri and him, obviously each, and the majority of their guys. Kobe Hetherington on the watch list as well, coming off the bench to see how many minutes he gets and if he can get the starting spot. I wouldn't be looking to pick him up in my side. I'd be happy to play him. I think somewhere in the 30 to 40 mark, he should be able to get fairly comfortably in a 40 to 50 minute role off the bench. Alec McDonald and Wishart, so 2 cheapies off the bench for the Storm. How many minutes they're going to get, I'm not exactly sure. If they have, the injuries, the amount of injuries that they had last week, will these guys get the same minutes? Will King get the same minutes? I'm not exactly sure, but King would be safer than these two, even though they're at a cheaper price. And the last one, we spoke about Billy Smith. So that's the video, guys. I hope that one helps you a little bit in your decisions to buy, hold, sell, and some guys to watch. And if that didn't answer all your questions, then you can jump into the comments. But I really hope that that does. And any of your specific questions I can go through in a Q&A later today. But as always, guys, hope you have subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, please do hit the like button, and we'll catch you in the next video. Good luck with your trades this week, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.